I'm Colter Nuanez coming to you from the Northwest Motorsports Studio here at ESPN at the Missoula Broadcasting Company. Proudly locally owned and operated. Northwest Motorsport, new to Missoula. You can find amazing winter savings at Northwest Motorsport. Visit nwmsrocks.com for the largest selection of lifted trucks, diesel trucks, and off-road capable SUVs. Take back control of the road with a new rig from Northwest Motorsport. You want to be engaged with us? You want to rap a little bit? You got some questions, comments, concerns, whatever? You can call us or text us, 406-888-1029. That's 888-1029. And all guests will join us via the Rangish Brothers RV phone line. You can also text that number as well. Keep it in mind, because about 45 minutes from now, you're going to have an opportunity to win a delicious sandwich. Maybe some wine. I don't know, whatever you want to get down at Tagliari Deli, but they do have the best sandwiches in the state of Montana. So Tagliari Tuesday coming at you. What else we got in the show today? A good one. We got Brent Vegan, Montana State head football coach, joining us here in just a minute. We also have our Treasure State Stars for the week. We're going to focus on National Signing Day. The early signing period opens tomorrow for college football, so expected for 23 total in-state recruits to sign with both the Grizz and the Bobcats, and a total of about 30 total guys expected to sign between the two Big Sky Conference schools in the state of Montana. Also going to continue to tell you some stories from our trip across the country. We were in Harrisonburg, Virginia, Huntsville, Texas, with stops in D.C. and Houston and Vegas in between. And also second hour, our good buddy Sam Herder, Hero Sports, is going to hop on with us to talk all things FCS playoffs, including his All-American team. A bunch of guys from both Montana State landing on the All-American squad. So congratulations to all those guys, particularly the ones that are seniors that have gone through so much at both the schools with the COVID year and everything in between. And then we're also going to talk about the two opponents that Montana State played over the weekend, because that was their last FCS games for both those schools. I guess Sam Houston's going to play an independent FCS schedule next year before they move up to FBS, but they're ineligible for the playoffs, and James Masson out as well. So what do we think of those moves, and what will those moves, how they affect the rest of the FCS? We go now, though, to the Rangish Brothers RV phone line. Welcome in the head coach of the last Montana school that's playing college football right now. He's Brent Vegan from the Bobcats. Coach, thanks so much for joining us. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on today.
First and foremost, let's talk about the weekend that was. An unbelievable weekend. It was fun being down there in Huntsville, fun watching your guys compete. And it seems like you guys are just a team on a mission. It seemed like there was nothing that was going to deter this team from just taking out the number one seed in the bracket. So just take us through it. I mean, did you feel in the week of practice last week that you guys were sharp and that you were guys preparing to do what you did in that 42-19 win over Sam Houston?
Yeah, I think it goes back to, the previous Saturday against Martin. I think we finished really strong in that game. We had a really good second half. So I think that led to, really good week of practice. And knowing Sam Houston's success, the winning streak, the championship, I think our guys were fully aware that we needed to really prepare. They're a very talented team, but we weren't intimidated by their success either. I think, we went down there confident in what we could do. I think we felt like a good start would be pretty important. We had a great start, but we did the things we needed to. We knew we needed to outrush them. They were only giving up 71 yards, and that was going to be a tall task. We knew we needed to hold them back. They had a really good running game. We were able to really get that going right from the start. It was going to be big for us to take the ball away, and we did that, and we didn't turn it over, and we took it away early and really set our offense up well. And then as far as explosive plays go, we needed to be on the right side, and that was a really tall task. I think looking at where their passing game was at relative to ours, but we came right out of the gates, hit Lance, I think, on the second play of the game, got that turnover and threw a touchdown to Willie. So just within the matter of a handful of plays, we had two long passes and 14 points on the board. So, I think we had a good sense of what we needed to do, and then our guys were, really had their mindset and going out and doing it.
Well, that's what's so cool to watch with your squad is that sense of belief. And you've talked about it all year, the togetherness of the locker room. But it's just so apparent this time of year. And I think that's even accentuated now with the fact that you got this young kid that's just making waves across the entire FCS and Tommy Malott playing quarterback. So talk about that element, just the fact that not only do you have a close-knit squad, but you guys make a quarterback change right before the playoffs, and it seems like everybody on the roster is just completely all in with the guy you got under center these days.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And I've talked about it. I think there's not a guy on our team that wouldn't, speak volumes of who Tommy is as a person, as a worker, above anything else. And that's saying a lot. He hasn't been here too long. And his time here, was, in large part that COVID year through his first year. And he just, I think, made a really good impression upon all his teammates. And then, as we came in here as a new staff, I think continued to impress us. And he's continued to get better as a quarterback. We used him in all kinds of ways the first 11 games. But you could see his development kind of behind the scenes. And I think what we did that week, that bye week, we had a couple practices where we had made the decision that he was going to be quarterback. And, it's intentional. We went out there and had him throw the ball around a little bit. And I think our team saw that and said, okay, we're moving forward with a guy that not only do we like and respect, but, he can run the ball. That's, everybody sees that, but he's a complete quarterback, and he's an ultimate competitor too. So, he worked through some things, just having the game maybe slow down a little bit in that first half of the Martin game, and then his last, I'd say 6 quarters of football have been tremendous. And I think the great thing right now, we're sitting here going into our 14th game. He does not have a lot of mileage, really. He's played special teams and all that, but he's a pretty healthy guy right now. And, we'll need him to play really well this Saturday to, keep this thing going.
Brett Vigen joining us, Montana State head football coach here on Nuanez Now. It's our Montana State Minute. Do this a couple times a week here on ESPN Radio. Let's talk about the upcoming opponent then, Coach. South Dakota State. I think it's a fascinating parallel for you because you played at North Dakota State back when South Dakota State was still Division II and North Dakota State was also Division II. And those two schools sort of paralleled each other. NDSU has obviously reached unparalleled heights now this last 10 years. But you've had all sorts of experience, whether it was a player or a coach, battling with the Jackrabbits. So it seems almost fitting now in your first year as a head coach outside of that little circle that they have playoff opponents. So just take us through some of your history with South Dakota State.
Yeah, going back to my playing days, they were a team that we were back and forth with. I know we lost to them my senior year. That was Coach Stiegelmeier's first year, and that was a big loss for us. I think they were a 500 team, and we were a playoff team, and that kept us out of the conference championship. But they always had good players for that stretch, and as we kind of finished up those Division II years, again, it was a back and forth deal. And as Coach Stiegelmeier, began to put his own fingerprints on that program, they just continued to get better and better. And what I really admire about South Dakota State is we made that move together back in 2004, and NDSU did the things and has continued to do the things that have been done there. But South Dakota State, they made a conscious decision that we're going to do this as well as we can. Because if you look at their program history, I think there's just a couple playoff appearances before the move, and then if you look at the last 10 years in particular, they're a perennial playoff team, and there's a continuity that's gone on. Coach Stiegelmeier's been there a long time. He's had a lot of the same staff members. They've upgraded their facilities greatly in the last decade, and they really got it going. And they've still continued to be a thorn in NDSU's side. If anybody is, they've had the most success against them, and they've clearly driven each other. I guess I think that's the one thing that is apparent, and a lot of history. Some games that we thought we should have won that we didn't, and some really hard-fought victories at the same time. And to play them here on this stage. They certainly, I appreciate the fact they won a couple games against higher seeds and got us a home game in Bozeman. But I think going into the playoffs, they would have been a team that I would have clearly said, has a great chance of being here in the semifinals. And it doesn't surprise me. They're a very well-rounded team, and they were a champion, a runner-up last year, playing the championship game. So, we're going to have our hands full for sure.
We'll talk about John Stiegelmeier because he's one of the longest tenured coaches in all of college football. He's been there, like you mentioned, since the mid-'90s at South Dakota State. He's done a tremendous job. I've been covering South Dakota State since I first remember when they came to Missoula to play in the playoffs in 2009. That was their first Division I playoff appearance. And you're right, they've been in the playoffs every year but one since then. So perennial is exactly the right word to use. But when I watch South Dakota State, they've had so many different iterations of the style that they play, particularly offensively. But defensively, they always seem to look kind of the same, and I think that's what you expect when you have that sort of stability and a defensive-minded head coach. But what have you thought just of the evolution of South Dakota State? Because it seems like Coach Stiegelmeier, the key to his longevity has been his ability to be flexible and sort of maybe morph the identity based on the personnel and just the talent he has on his team.
Yeah, no question. You're right as far as the defensive side. I think there's maybe been some subtle changes defensively, but, the hallmark has been, they're going to terrorize you up front. They're not going to kill themselves. They're going to be physical, and they're going to fly to the football and know where they're supposed to be. I think, they play defense in a very consistent manner, and that's been the same way through this whole stretch. But, offensively, they've had some different versions of high-powered offenses, whether they've been really good at tailback, really good at quarterback, really good at tight end, or really good at receiver. And they've had some exceptional players at all those positions, and they've really done a good job of highlighting those particular spots. There are a bunch of NFL guys in there, a bunch of All-Americans for sure, and he's had I think 3-4 play callers through that stretch, and that's, to me, that's a head coach probably outlining some things, outlining some expectations, but then letting, his play callers just go and do their jobs too. And, hats off to them because they've continued to be a high-powered, high-scoring, balanced offense, through this whole stretch.
Well, the play caller now, Jason Eck, a guy that a lot of people around the state of Montana are maybe a little familiar with because he was the offensive line coach in Bozeman for a year. Tough position to be in for him because he was taking over for Jason McAdoo, who had been there for 13 or 14 years and was beloved by the Bobcat fan base. But Coach Eck seems like he's put his own stamp on it. So, they've run the ball with such authority this year. Pierre Strong, Isaiah Davis, two of the best running backs in the country. Do you feel like, though, that his offensive line background, can you see that when you watch South Dakota State's offense on film?
Yeah, I think, it's not all that common for an offensive line coach to call plays. He's done a really good job of it since taking over when Eric Eisnes left for Northern Illinois. And, putting his own stamp on it, I think from his perspective is, you as an O-line coach, you're going to probably highlight things that the O-line does really well, and they're a well-coached unit. They play with really good technique, pad level, and they're very aggressive. And I think he's going to take that mindset of really being able to stress them as much as he feels possible, and that's just a different gauge. Typically, you don't get that, like I said, an offensive line coach, being the play caller. I do think that they utilize their personnel very well, and that's been that consistent hallmark. And this is a team that is highlighted, I think, by those two backs, but they got a couple tight ends that they really like to get the ball to, but they're also really good blockers at the same time. They have the twin receivers, the Yankee brothers, that are very effective on the outside, and they can get the ball to them downfield. They get the ball to them in the screen game. So just really tough to defend, and that starts with, I think Coach Eck and the O-line and how well schooled they are. Their O-line, and sometimes an O-line limits what you can do. Just whether that's ability or intelligence or whatever, but it's clear to me that their O-line allows them to do a lot of things as opposed to limit what they can do.
Brett Vigen joining us here on the Montana State Minute. We do this a couple times a week here on Nuanez now. There's also a lot of crossovers because the Bobcats recently played South Dakota State, so there's some of the older guys on this team. They have a little bit of familiarity. I know not a lot of similar guys on the roster on either side, but some of the older guys have played each other before. But also your running backs coach and recruiting coordinator, Jimmy Beal, was at SDSU for a moment in time. And then, of course, Leon Costello, who, by the way, will join us tomorrow here on Nuanez now, Montana State Athletic Director. He was at SDSU for quite some time as well. So, I mean, particularly having a coach on your staff that was recently at South Dakota State, does that add anything to the intel you have out of SDSU? Or how does some of those familiar connections add to this football game?
Well, I think what it does, and you mentioned, our guys, a good number of them played in the game in 18, and then some played in 17. I think what it does is you have an instant respect for what they're all about, and that's certainly what I bring to the table, having all the experience I have against them is, you can flip the film on and you're playing a very unfamiliar opponent sometimes in the playoffs like you did with the Tennessee Martin, and you're really guessing on how hard they play, where these kids come from. That is not the case in this situation. And, our guys, I think, got beat down pretty good the year in Brookings, and they remember that. And they remember it from the standpoint that they've got really good players. I think that's the perspective our guys have. Coach Beal, being there recently, he's got a real good sense of the ability that they have. And, obviously Leon, his experience being at that school, I think just knows how they've done things, how they've grown that program. And I think what it comes down to is, I think anytime you know an opponent, you respect an opponent, I think your preparation, you're going to get everything and then some out of it. And that's what we need to do. And I'm certain they're going to prepare like crazy at the same time. There's not a lot of unknowns maybe in this deal. And that's what that's what you want. You want opponents that you respect. That you have to play your tail off to get anything, and that's what's gonna take come Saturday.
A lot of stuff going on Montana State's campus this week. If I'm not mistaken, it's finals week as well. So I think people forget. All of us remember back to our days as just students and how stressful finals can get. Pretty busy to be able to prepare for a FCS semifinal playoff game as well as a final. So how do you think you guys are going to handle this, and how do you mitigate that element of this thing?
Well, I think they're doing all right. We have finals, really Monday, yesterday through Thursday, and I think this day and age, it's maybe there's a little bit more flexibility with the online capabilities of finals. I think that's helped. We practiced in the morning both yesterday and today, so we really didn't have hardly any conflicts with it. We practice in the afternoon tomorrow because we were going to have some morning conflicts. So, it's a different week for sure. In some ways, our guys can manage their time a little bit differently, maybe more effectively because they're not in classes. But it's paramount that they succeed on these finals, and we've made that abundantly clear. So spending any time they can outside of our practice and meeting times, preparing for them and doing the very, very best they can.
Well, and it's also very busy because tomorrow is the opening of the early signing period for college football. That hit me in the back like a truck. I couldn't believe that was happening. I completely forgot this was even happening because I've been so excited and having so much fun covering the playoffs. But how do you manage that from a coaching staff perspective when you are in the midst of a playoff run, but you're also trying to put together at least a portion of your first recruiting class at Montana State?
Yeah, it's a interesting dynamic as you work into December. So the last 2 weeks have been a contact period. I've gotten out and done some recruiting a little bit, gotten around the state. We've had a chance to see, all of our in-state commits. So that's been positive. Typically, though, we would be all over the place if we weren't playing. Juggling tomorrow, the last couple of years at Wyoming as this early signing date came into effect. I know one year we were in Boise for the Potato Bowl. We did signing there. Another time, I think we were still preparing, for whatever bowl we were in, the Arizona Bowl, I guess. So we played later. So, it has changed this month quite a bit. Tomorrow is a big day. We'll add some really good players to this program. I look forward to talking about them in the afternoon tomorrow. But it's just the nature of it. I think it's a really good problem when you can tell recruits, we can't get out and recruit because we're playing. We can't have, guys on campus last weekend because we're down in Texas. So you take the good with the bad, and we've had a great response because of our success this fall. And, these guys that we're adding to the mix will be a big part of us, having future success.
Brent Vigen joining us, the Montana State Minute, here on Nuanez Now. He is Montana State's head football coach. Bobcats, they host South Dakota State, the first semifinal football game in Bozeman since 1984. And, Coach, I know that you, specifically with your time in North Dakota State, have had playoff runs before, but this one your first as a head coach. So just the magnitude of this, the fact that this is the first playoff game in the state of Montana, period, since 2009, first semifinal game in Montana since 2009, and the first one at Bobcat Stadium in 37 years. A pretty impressive accomplishment by your guys. So has the magnitude of this moment set in for you yet?
Well, I don't know. I know we're just happy to be back home, and the stadium's sold out, and it's going to be a environment that I think will really help us come Saturday. So not only excited for our players, but our fans. This is an opportunity that hasn't presented itself in a long time, but it's a position that, I think as a football program that we think we should be in. It was unfortunate that we lost our ability to kind of control our destiny as far as the home field advantage went the last week of the season. We were still seeded. That was good to get the one home game, and we needed a little help to get back here, but it kind of came into play. So, anytime you get a chance to play at home in the playoffs, I think it does, and it should work to your advantage. I know it did those 3 years in Fargo for us, and it has continued, to be the case for North Dakota State as they made all those runs. You get a chance to play at home in your own environment. I don't know how to quantify the points necessarily, but when you play in an electric environment like we do, it does make a difference. And that's not the case everywhere in the FCS, unfortunately. But we're happy that that is the case here, and just so excited, to feel that energy come Saturday at noon.
Well, last thing for you then, it seems like when you get to this point, it's anybody's ball game. Everybody that's left is playing outstanding football. Affirmation is among the best teams in the United States this year, and awesome for you guys. But how do you finish the deal? What's it going to take on Saturday if you guys are going to win this final home game and get yourself a little trip to Frisco, Texas?
Well, I think it's going to take a lot of the same ingredients that got us the win last Saturday at San Houston. I think you get to this point of the season, you have to be able to defend the run. You got to be able to find a way to run the football. I think for us, as far as those explosive plays that we talked about, different makeup of an opponent here, but they still have explosive ability. We really have to limit it. And then we got to find a way to create some on our end. And then certainly that turnover margin is going to be huge. And I think this game, maybe different than last week, is going to be a little bit more of a street fight. They're a physical team. I think we fashion ourselves as a physical team. That's hard to quantify sometimes leading into a game, but it's something you can definitely feel maybe a quarter into a game of who's the more aggressive physical team, and that needs to be us. Then hopefully those other things, the rushing yards, the takeaways, the turnovers, and the explosive plays kind of follow suit. So this is a classic, I guess, playoff matchup. Teams with similar styles to some degree, and we got to go out and execute and play as hard as we can, and hope the home field energy brings us something, makes it a little more complicated for them. So really excited for it, and I can't wait to get our team out there on Saturday.
Well, we can't wait either. We'll be bringing the whole crew over. Can't wait to see Bobcat Stadium fully sold out for a Final Four game. Been a long time coming. Brett Vegan joining us here on Nuanez now. Thanks so much for being with us, Coach, and best of luck on Saturday.
I really appreciate it, Coulter. Go Cats.
There you go. It's the Montana State Minute, presented by Jake Dubeck. Jake Dubeck, your go-to realtor in the Helena area. Whether you're looking to buy or sell, he has all sorts of properties from Helena all the way down to Townsend and everywhere in between around the capital city. He understands people as well as anybody I've ever met, and he'll be able to understand you with any of your real estate questions. The Montana State Minute, presented by Jake Dubeck, your Montana realtor. Sam Herder from Hero Sports coming up at the top of the hour. So we'll look forward to talking to the senior FCS analyst. But Hero Sports released their All-American teams today and a array of decoration for some of the best players in the state of Montana. And most of these not really a surprise, but congratulations to these guys nonetheless. First-team All-American honors from players from the Treasure State include Montana State defensive end Daniel Hardy. He has 14 sacks and counting so far during his breakout senior year. Patrick O'Connell from Montana, Buck Buchanan Award finalist, is also on the first team, as is Troy Anderson from Montana State, the Big Sky Conference Defensive Player of the Year, and himself a Buck Buchanan Award finalist. And Justin Ford, who finished fourth in the Buck Buchanan Award, voting a junior cornerback from the University of Montana. He is also a first-team All-American. And Brian Buschini, the last honor he'll earn as a Grizzly, freshman punter from Helena, Montana. He announced today he's on his way to Nebraska, but he was a first-team All-American for the Grizzlies this last fall. Second-team selections include Isaiah Afonso from Montana State, the outstanding running back, the league's leading rusher, set the single-season record for rushing yards in a season by a Bobcat. And a guy that helped him get there, Lewis Kidd, offensive lineman for the Bobcats, a first-team All-Big Sky selection. He's a second-team All-American in his senior year. Matt O'Donohue, the long snapper for the Montana Grizzlies, and Malik Flowers, the return specialist for the Grizzlies. Those guys both on the second team as well. Third-team All-Americans from Hero Sports included Chase Benson from Montana State and Jace Lewis from Montana. Very happy about both of those. I was a little concerned just because Benson doesn't get the credit he deserves. I will go to my grave saying that he is among, if not the most important players on Montana State's defense, and what a warrior. He's played through so much pain this year, but he has done a phenomenal job anchoring the center of the Bobcat defense. And Jace Lewis, I thought he was snubbed as a second-team All-Big Sky guy, but I'm glad he got an All-American nod because he did a phenomenal job of representing Montana's number 37. And what a great story, a Class B kid out of Broadwater County High School who becomes a three-year starter and an outstanding player for the Grizzlies. Montana's Robbie Hauk and Kevin Macias. Robbie Hauk, a safety, Kevin Macias, a kicker, also land on the third team. Hero Sports also does freshman and sophomore All-American teams. Alex Gubner, the sophomore defensive tackle for the Grizzlies, lands on the sophomore All-American team. Cole Grossman, freshman tight end, and, of course, Buschini, both land on the freshman All-American teams from Hero Sports as well. A total of 40 guys from the Big Sky Conference. So they dominated, the Big Sky did, when it came to Hero Sports All-American accolades. Sam Herder from Hero Sports joining us about half an hour. But right now, we get you all set up for all the guys expected to sign with both the Grizzlies and the Bobcats tomorrow with the opening of the signing period, including 23 of them from right here in the Treasure State. Our Treasure State Stars highlighting some of the best high school football prospects in the state next here on Nuanez Now.
Introducing Sportsbet Montana, powered by the Montana Lottery. Join in the excitement of Sportsbet Montana by betting on your favorite sports and teams, both collegiate and professional, including NFL, NBA, MLB, MMA, NASCAR, and more. There are multiple ways to bet, including in-game, which gets you in on the action live as the game unfolds, and parlay betting, where you have the chance to win big. Sportsbet Montana is secure and interactive. Learn more at sportsbetmontana.com.
Part of the glory of building a business comes from leaving a legacy to ensure your business continues thriving into the future. Have you asked yourself lately, what is your plan? Forming a personalized business succession plan is essential to know the passion you put into your business will carry on. Nick Tabor at Westpac Wealth is here to help you navigate all your business succession and retirement planning needs. Give Nick a call at 728-6699 and keep the spirit of possibility vibrant while making your future more tax efficient with a personalized business succession and retirement plan for you.
There's only one gift that gives you endless possibilities during the holidays. The Missoula Downtown Gift Card. Accepted at over 200 local businesses, it's the most versatile gift for everyone on your list. Purchase your downtown gift cards at the Downtown Missoula Partnership, the Paddleheads Post, or order ahead at MissoulaDowntown.com for a quick and easy pickup. Downtown gift cards can also be mailed for contactless delivery. Put your money where your heart is this holiday season. Order your Missoula Downtown gift cards today.
Paul Ryan is a name that's been synonymous with law around the Garden City for decades. And Paul is excited to announce the expansion of his firm to Ryan, Holloway, and Miller. Paul Ryan, Nate Holloway, and Angie Miller have a fierce love for their community, and they want to help you with any of your legal needs. From auto accidents to medical malpractice to wrongful death or any criminal defense, Ryan, Holloway, and Miller should be your first call. When it comes to personal injury or criminal defense, call Ryan, Holloway, and Miller today. Ryan, Holloway, and Miller, your Montana attorneys.
The world of real estate is always evolving. That's more true now than ever. If you are a longtime Missoulian that is looking to upgrade or downsize, it might be the best time yet to sell. If you're in the position to buy something new, today might be the best time to buy. And no matter what questions you have when it comes to residential or commercial real estate, Mike Nugent and the professionals at Berkshire Hathaway in Missoula have your answers. To find out what Mike can do for you, give him a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
It's Customer Appreciation Days at Bob Ward's this Tuesday, December 14th and Wednesday, December 15th. Bob Ward's wants to say thank you for making us a part of your holiday gift giving. Get a $20 bonus coupon for every $100 you spend. Spend $200 and get a $40 coupon. Spend $300 and get $60 in coupons. You get the idea. This Tuesday and Wednesday, it's our Customer Appreciation Days only at Bob Ward's Sports and Outdoors, a Montana holiday shopping tradition.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
The semifinals of the FCS playoffs are coming to Montana for the first time in more than a decade. Hello, I am Colter Nuanez. Saturday night in Huntsville, Texas, the Montana State Bobcats pulled off an upset for the ages, toppling top-ranked, top-seeded, and undefeated Sam Houston in resounding fashion. MSU freshman quarterback Tommy Mellott caught a touchdown, threw a touchdown, and rushed for two more scores as Montana State surged to a 28-0 lead early in the second quarter on the way to a 42-19 victory. The win helps Montana State sew up a bid in the semifinals of the playoffs for the second year in a row. It also means that MSU will host South Dakota State in the first semifinal playoff game at Bobcat Stadium since 1984. The state of Montana has not seen a Final Four game since Montana defeated App State in overtime in 2009 to advance to the title game. MSU's victory marked the first road FCS playoff win in program history. It also marked the first time Sam Houston has ever lost a home game in the postseason and snapped a 22-game winning streak for the Bearcats dating back to their undefeated spring season that saw Sam win their first national title. And finally, Friday in Harrisonburg, Virginia, the Montana Grizzlies ran into a buzzsaw. James Madison scored on a pair of big plays in the first half while knocking out Grizz quarterback Cam Humphrey before cruising to a 28-6 victory over UM. Montana's season ends with a 10-3 record.
This 102.9 ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
I said it to the sounds of the guitar, yeah. Played by Carlos Santana. I said a la favela, Locomotives, the streets are getting hotter. There is no water to put out the fire.
Unbelievable that Santana is coming to Missoula in April. I guess I shouldn't be surprised given what the music scene's turned into here in western Montana. One of the best parts about living in the Garden City is all the awesome concerts. I don't know why in my head it seems even more crazy than like the Rolling Stones or Paul McCartney, Elton John, but it does. Supernatural dropped about 20 years ago. And it was a landmark album. I know it became so popular that it almost became like Santana became hated kind of because it was so popular. And he had so many different cameos on that record with a variety of different vocalists and things. But I love that record. I love Santana. So I'll be very excited to see Santana when he comes to Missoula in the spring. It's Nuanez now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. Talk a little music here on your Tuesday. Also, can't believe it's here. I still don't really know any of the benefits. I can tell you about a million downsides, and I don't really know what the upside is. But the early signing period opens tomorrow for college football, 3-day signing period. And it's just accelerated all things football. And I do get, like, maybe schools can get their stuff wrapped up a little early. But I think the timing of it is why we saw guys like Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly bolt from their prestigious jobs to take other prestigious jobs because they needed a couple weeks to go recruit before this early signing period. I also think the guys that don't sign early get caught in the wash a little bit. Sometimes, you know, maybe you got some FCS offers and then you start getting a little Mountain West interest. You don't sign with the FCS. They fill your spot. And then maybe somebody else takes your scholarship at the FBS level. And then maybe you're just hung out to dry. Sometimes they can benefit some of the FCS schools, like Simeon Woodard, who had a pick against Sam Houston for Montana State. He was getting recruited by some SEC schools. And then it kind of all fell through, and he didn't have anywhere to go, so he was a late commit to Montana State out of San Antonio, Texas. And he's been great. He's a true freshman starter for the Bobcats and on one of the best defenses in the country. So sometimes guys like that can sort of matriculate their way to this level that we cover here in Montana. Dylan Simon's another guy like that. He was committed to Florida State once upon a time, a corner for the Grizz, but then that kind of fell through, and all of a sudden he has nowhere to go, and he ends up at Montana. So there are some benefits to some of the FCS schools, I guess, but I also think then this is why we see this rash of transfers this time of year. Usually your season gets over, and then maybe you have a couple weeks of exit meetings and your finals and stuff, and then it's winter break coming up. Then you report back, it's winter conditioning, and you get a little bit of time to think and be around your teammates, and you know your coaches lay out what your role responsibilities are going to be and what they expect from you in the offseason. And then, you know, maybe if you decide to transfer still, maybe then you can pull the trigger and you can sign somewhere in February. Well, now that's in December, I think a lot of teams, a lot of players, they get done with their year, and then there's all this pressure to make a decision to get into the portal. Like, that was part of the reason of Matt McKay's timing at Montana State. Montana State's former quarterback, he pulled the trigger because he wanted to be available before what's going to happen tomorrow came to fruition. So, I don't know. I'm a little torn on it. But all that said, what it's become in Montana is the time in which the Grizz and the Bobcats sign most of their Montana prospects. Most of the guys that are like the full scholarship or half scholarship type guys that sign with the Cats or the Grizz are doing it early. They're doing it right here in mid-December. And then usually the guys that fill in the rest of the class for the more traditional signing day, the first Wednesday of February, those are some of your Mountain West guys, some of your guys that fall through the cracks at that level, or maybe just some late additions because you have some attrition in those 6 to 8 weeks. And then oftentimes a lot of the preferred walk-on guys from Montana then are signed in as well. So let's talk about who's going to sign, or at least who's expected to sign, for both the Grizz and the Bobcats tomorrow. This is our Treasure State Stars. It's presented by Parkside Credit Union. Parkside Credit Union is an outstanding place to get a loan, no matter what you need financing for, because Parkside Credit Union loves to say yes. Let's take a look at the Grizzlies first. They have 11 verbal commitments from the state of Montana among their 13 commitments overall. Here's the guys expected to sign with the Grizz tomorrow. Caden Hewitt, outstanding quarterback from Helena, Montana, 6'4", 200-pounder, who led the Bengals to the semifinals of the Class AA playoffs. He's really good. He's the real deal. I've seen him in person. I've seen him at Marty Morningwig's camp. I've also seen him in 3 different games. Unfortunately, 2 of them were against Sentinel, and he honestly had not great outings, including as a junior. He got knocked out of that game, and that was a huge blow to Helena High in that game, that Sentinel just ran through the Bengals in that one. But Hewitt's a good prospect, and we'll see what he becomes, but he's certainly going to enter a quarterback room where things are wide open in Montana. And I'm not prophesizing or predicting that this kid's going to be in the mix next year, but he's almost going to have to be in some form or fashion, only because Cam Humphrey graduates. I do think that Montana's going to go get a transfer. They offered two different guys yesterday. We'll get to that a little later on. And then if they do bring in a transfer, what's that mean for Chris Brown? What's that mean for Robbie Patterson? So I do think that there's going to be a wide open room, and I think the girls are going to have to fill several seats at the quarterback position, but one of them filled with Caden Hewitt from Helena High. Bo Dantic from Laurel, Montana, led the Locomotives to a runner-up finish in the Class A playoffs. They were the champions when Dantic was a junior. He's a running back, linebacker type. I'm actually interested to ask Coach Houck where they see him playing. But he's a big, strong kid, and he can run. And he's a hard hitter. So we'll see what they play him. Probably needs to get a little mass and strength if he's going to play linebacker. So we'll see. We'll see where he projects. But he's a good kid out of Laurel, Montana. Tyson Rostad, I'll be interested to see where they play him as well. He was a quarterback and safety that led Hamilton High to their first Class A state championship since 1998. Rostad goes about 6'1", 200 pounds. He runs really well. He's really tough. His older brother, Carson Rostad, a former Gatorade Player of the Year, he came to Montana as a quarterback, but has since been switched to defense. He was playing some special teams this year and showed pretty well during his redshirt freshman year. So also interested where Tyson Rostad ends up. Ian Finch from right here in Missoula, Montana, a Hellgate product. This kid's a great athlete. I've seen him play basketball more than I've seen him play football, but he's an awesome basketball player. He's really good hands, and he's got quick twitch. He's a good jumper, but he's also a quick jumper, if that makes sense. Get off the ground pretty quick. That usually caters to being a good wide receiver. He had outstanding numbers at Hellgate, got a whole ton of touchdowns. So I think that he's a guy that, as a local guy, I think they're probably getting him for quote-unquote cheap, so to speak. Limited amount of scholarship resources, but he has a lot of upside. Chase McGurran from Helena High. He was Hewitt's main target, and I expect him likely to start at wide receiver at Montana, but he's a good player. Joey Visser from Jefferson County High School in Boulder, Montana. He's about 6'1", 175. I'm interested to see. This is the versatility of Montana athletes, right? But also because they come from smaller programs. A lot of these guys, Bo Dantic, I think he could play running back or linebacker at Montana. Tyson Rostad, I think he could play a variety of positions. Same thing with Joey Visser. We'll see if he plays offense or defense at Montana. Joe Wida, the son of longtime Grizz trainer J.C. Wida. He's a 6'4", 220-pounder out of Missoula Sentinel, a tight end and a defensive end for the Spartans this last year on their run to the Class AA state championship. And I think he'll probably play tight end at Montana. Marcus Evans, the younger of Scott Evans' two boys. Zach Evans already playing for the Grizzlies. Marcus Evans, who was a first-team All-State linebacker, he goes about 6'1", 200 for the Bengals. So that's 3 Helena High kids for those of you counting. But I think Marcus Evans will play linebacker at Montana, and he's a very good player. His brother was solid in high school. I think that Marcus is the more talented of the two. And they come from great lineage because Scott Evans is a great coach. He's been coaching high school football in the state of Montana for more than 2 decades. This is a recent commit, Bronson Henriksen. He's a 6'4", 220-pound defensive lineman out of Polson, Montana. Zach Wilson got so many of the accolades for Polson, the quarterback up there who's only a junior. So I actually really didn't know much about Henriksen, but looks like a long, lean prospect that Bobby Houck really likes. Missoula Sentinel, Zach Cruz is also on the list. He's likely to play defensive end or outside linebacker at Missoula, for the Grizzlies. He's from Missoula Sentinel. He was the heart and soul of that team, one of their best players. And then the last in-state player, Patrick Rohrbach, kicker punter from Kalispell Glacier. I've heard this kid's really good. Very talented. So with Kevin Macias graduating and Brian Buschini into the transfer portal, Rohrbach might have a chance to compete right away. The out-of-state guys for Montana expected to sign Eli Gilman. He is the Minnesota Player of the Year, 3-star running back from the Minneapolis area, who looks like an outstanding prospect on film. His film's ridiculous. He's really, really, really good. And then the other one, a 3-star athlete out of Park City, Utah. He's 6'3", 205-pound receiver, Sam Alford. He's actually been on the show before, and Sam is the younger brother of Eli Alford, defensive tackle for the Grizzlies. Treasure State Stars, presented by Parkside Credit Union. Let's take a look at the in-state products expected to sign with the Bobcats. 2 guys from Gallatin High School. It's only been around for 2 years. The first 2 guys ever from the Gallatin Raptors that will sign Division I scholarships out of Bozeman. Rylan Schlepp, big tight end. He's been on the show before, and he's got a lot of upside. He's about 6'4". He's got good, strong hands. He's a strong kid in general, like his aggressiveness. So he's a good one. And then the other Bozeman Gallatin product, Jake Vegan. That name sounds familiar. He is indeed the son of head coach Brett Vegan. I actually have only seen Jake Vegan throw the football a little bit, but he's a great baseball player. And that usually caters well to success. We've seen it right now with some of the guys that are currently tearing it up at all levels of football, whether it's Kyler Murray or Russell Wilson at the NFL level or Eric Berry at Eastern Washington was a great baseball player as well. I do think there's some arm angle stuff, some throwing on the run that caters to play modern quarterbacks. So we'll see if Jake Vegan can make those things translate. Other in-state products for the Bobcats include Burke Mastel from Red Lodge. He's an offensive lineman who's got a lot of upside. He's got a good frame. Ethan Abbott, who's a defensive tackle out of Florence. That's a good get for the Cats because Florence right here in the backyard of the Grizzlies. And Ethan Abbott, he stood out to me when I first started watching him as a junior. He's mean. He's really, really big. I mean, he looked like a giant against Class B competition. I mean, he's 6'5", 280, and he looked that part all day long, helping lead Florence to an undefeated season and a Class B state title. Chaco and Caden Dowler from Billings West, two of the most explosive athletes in the state. They led the Golden Bears to runner-up finish at the Class AA level. And so those guys are good gets. The Grizzlies both recruited those guys pretty hard as well. Tommy Nielsen, an offensive lineman from Missoula Hellgate, who's got a lot of potential. Max Kimball, also of Billings West. If the Kimball name sounds familiar, it is. It's a couple Kimballs that have played for the Bobcats back in the 80s. Doug Kimball's on the 1984 National Championship team. That's Max Kimball's uncle. And then Brad Kimball, he also played for the Bobcats. I believe that's Max Kimball's dad. The fourth Billings West Golden Bear, Max Murphy. He's a likely going to play linebacker for the Bobcats, but he just committed recently. And so that gives a quartet of Billings West Golden Bears going to MSU. A couple other newer commits, the most recent one being Casey Kotzman from Butte High School. He actually got an offer from Sac State the other day, which if Andy Thompson, Sac State defensive coordinator, played football at Montana, if he starts recruiting in Montana, they could steal a couple guys out of here. We'll see, but that could impact the Montana recruiting wars. If there's another Big Sky school that's not the Grizz or the Bobcats recruiting in state, that'd be pretty interesting. Kotzman will be joined by his Butte High teammate Dylan Snyder. Not sure what he's going to play. He was a wide receiver, defensive end, and linebacker at Butte High. And then Ryan Cray, who's a fullback / linebacker, an athlete basically, out of Great Falls High, also expected to sign. So for those counting, that's 11 in-state guys expected to sign with the Grizzlies, 12 in-state guys expected to sign with the Bobcats. MSU expected to sign 17 total. The Grizz expected to sign 13 total. The out-of-state guys for the Bobcats include Christian Anaye, who's a wide receiver out of Hamilton High School in Arizona. Not the Hamilton here in the Bitterroot Valley, but Hamilton High School down in the Phoenix area. Very prestigious and well-thought-of football program down there. Jordan Reed, who's been on this show from Montana State, a big, strapping quarterback recruit from Southern California, a couple hours south of San Diego. They had all sorts of delays and cancellations, and he sort of fell through the cracks. He was getting recruited by a bunch of the Mountain West schools in California, like San Jose State and Fresno State, San Diego State. Ended up not getting – he didn't get to play his senior year at all, so he's been gray shirting, so he'll be joining this class and then be eligible in the fall. But it looks like a really talented kid. Taylor Markham out of Timberline High School in Boise is a running back. Logan Fredrickson is a defensive end out of Rigby, Idaho. And Drew Polidor is a 3-star cornerback out of Katy, Texas. Those are the outside of the state guys. Expected to sign with MSU tomorrow. There could be some surprises. National Signing Day and the opening of the National Signing Period, as this is now sort of referred to, used to have a lot more mystery and a lot more allure to it, only because now everybody tweets all their offers and everybody puts it all over Twitter. I mean, I remember when I first started beat writing from a sports perspective, I was burning up the phone lines, calling high school coaches, trying to be the guy on the forefront of recruiting. And now you just got to put your Twitter alerts on or just search, Montana offer, Montana State offer, and boom, all these guys pop up. So not necessarily the surprise or the pizzazz that he used to have, but still a big day for all these kids. And so congratulations to all 25 of them from the state of Montana that are expected, 23 of them from the state of Montana that are expected to sign with both the Grizz and the Bobcats tomorrow. And we'll have a full recap for you, maybe even a couple sound bites from both Bobby Houck and Brent Vigen's press conferences as the early signing period begins Wednesday. That's tomorrow. I had to rally on Sunday while watching two outstanding football games, sitting at a card table at the MGM Grand in Vegas. What else do we do besides get squished in little planes and travel all over the United States this last weekend? Stories from the road here on Nuanez Now. Keep it right here. ESPN Radio.
Open your new Stockman Bank account anytime, anywhere with online account opening. Now, you can open an account in minutes on your laptop, tablet, or mobile phone. It's convenient, simple, and secure. Open your new account today at stockmanbank.com. Then, add our online and mobile banking services so you can manage your money when, where, and how you want. Stockman Bank, Montana's brand of banking. Member FDIC.
Hey, it's Colter Nuanez from Nuanez Now. I'm here with Brent Wahlberg of the Wahlberg team at Windermere Real Estate. And Brent, you guys have been the official realtors of Grizz Athletics for quite some time. What most do you like about supporting the Grizz in Missoula?
Born and raised here in Missoula. I grew up 2 blocks off campus. A lot of us Montana kids were growing up on weekends in the fall. You're out in the woods hunting. I was sitting in Dorm Blazer and then Washington Grizzly Stadium watching the Grizz. I grew up with Grizz in my blood. It's just a wonderful part of our community and happy to be a part of it.
Give the Wahlberg team a call today, 529-4663.
Automated Living has a passion for all kinds of audio and video solutions. We pride ourselves on staying educated on the best technologies out there to make your experience absolutely amazing. We customize every build after listening to our clients' dream for how their system should look and sound in their space. We make those kind of dreams come true. If you haven't seen an OLED television, come to our shop and see the difference for yourself. Want sound on the deck or around the house that you can control with your phone? Give us a call and we'll figure out how to professionally make that happen. Automated Living, life made easy.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires, introducing the new Backcountry AT2 for a quieter ride with improved performance in wet conditions. Because when it comes to keeping your family safe on the road this winter, the right tires help you feel prepared for anything.
Mom, hey Mom.
Well, almost anything. Plus, save up to $130 when you buy Quatrac tires with financing. Les Schwab Tires. Limited time offer. Terms and conditions apply. See leschwab.com/sale for details.
Fresh ingredients combined with home-style recipes are what we're serving on the Montana Club's Fall Comfort Food Menu. Warm up with the Osso Buco or hearty chicken fried chicken, or savor our hot in the skillet chicken pot pie. Of course, cool days call for yummy desserts. Cap things off with the club's creamy pumpkin skillet a la mode or skillet apple pie. Visit your Montana Club today. Full menu at montanaclub.com. The Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Open your new Stockman Bank account anytime, anywhere with online account opening. Now, you can open an account in minutes on your laptop, tablet, or mobile phone. It's convenient, simple, and secure. Open your new account today at stockmanbank.com. Then, add our online and mobile banking services so you can manage your money when, where, and how you want. Stockman Bank, Montana's brand of banking. Member FDIC.
1, 2, 3. Nuanez Now on ESPN Radio.
Somewhere north of heaven, where eagles fear to fly, the sun burns hot as the devil's gate, the desert meets the sky, tattooed on my memory is the
It's Spotify Wrapped week. I know you guys all got your Spotify Wrapped a couple weeks ago, but this is the last week of Nuanez Now for 2021. Back in full force after the new year. As always, I didn't use any of my vacation this year, so they're kicking me out of here so I can get it taken care of. You know, use it or lose it. So I'll be not really doing anything. I'm just going to hang out. You know, I'll probably come to work every day. Half my friends work here anyways. So, no, but no Nuanez Now last 2 weeks of the year. So we're playing some of the best from my Spotify rap. This is a little Brooks and Dunn for you. I really got back into the Brooks and Dunn this year. I have a very dear aunt of mine who's been sick this year, and I always think of her, especially whenever I listen to Brooks and Dunn. She's from the Southwest. Grew up in Sedona, and she used to always play Brooks and Dunn when we were kids. And so this is very nostalgic for me. A little south of Santa Fe, which then reminds me, by the way, it's Nuanez now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. But I'm flying back from Vegas after we stopped there for a brief soiree after driving down from Huntsville, Texas to Houston, and then flying from Houston to Vegas. We had a couple hours there in Vegas, so got all our stuff checked in, and then went over the MGM Grand. But when we're flying back from Vegas, though, they have this magazine called The Sunsetter for all the Allegiant flights, and on the back it has all the shows. And Brooks and Dunn has been doing a show in Vegas for a while now, but it ends. I was looking at it and thinking, gosh, I got to go see me some Neon Moon live in Vegas. I was thinking maybe I'd even do that, just catch a plane for a day or two down there during my upcoming time off. But not so much. It ends on December 15th, so I guess what's that? What day is it today? The 14th? Yep, so it ends tomorrow, so bummer. Won't be seeing Brooks and Dunn, at least during this iteration of their stay in Vegas, but gotta love you, Brooks and Dunn. Good stuff. But we had a lot of fun on our travels, but probably the two most memorable things, I guess the three most memorable things that we encountered, myself, Andrew Houghton, our producer here at ESPN Missoula, as well as writer at Skyline Sports, and Blake Hempstead, one of our photographers at Skyline Sports. There's us three making the trip. And I told you all the perils of our travel logistics, but perhaps one of the best things that we encountered was a couple really unique places that we got a chance to go. I told the story of flying Andrew into the wrong Washington, D.C. airport on Thursday night, but then that let me and Blake go mob around Andrew's hood for a little while. His mother lives there in Brookland, right next to the city, basically. I mean, it's in the heart of the city, but just a couple, not very far from a lot of the iconic buildings and monuments and things like that in Washington, D.C. But we found this place called the Dewdrop Inn, and I only picked it because it was the only place in the area that was open. It was very late. It was like 12:30 at night by the time we got there. But this place was like straight out of Butte, Montana or something in the middle of Brookland. And there's hardly anybody there, but everybody that was there was really friendly, or I guess maybe not friendly, very engaging, very East Coast. We were wearing some branded gear. I think Blake had a Skyline shirt on. I had an ESPN coat on. So they were asking us, about the gig, what we're in town for, whatever. But then also the bartender there, he had not only happened to be the son of one of Andrew's basketball coaches growing up, but also a guy that went to New Hampshire, which is also in the Colonial Athletic Association, and a rival of James Madison. And so he was didn't have very much nice to say about JMU. But Andrew, that was fun though, being sort of in your neck of the woods. And it was also cool because you had texted me, hey, you should go to these places. And I said, hey, I looked those places up, but they weren't open. But you'd never actually been to this place. And they also told us this place had only been open for like less than a decade. And it seemed like one of those places that had been open for 100 years. It was just so funny, but it was also just cool to just hear this guy's stories and then have your memories sort of kick in about playing basketball for this guy's dad once upon a time. Classic, small world after all, even when we were 2,500 miles away from Montana.
Yeah, it was a super sweet place. I actually haven't been to a lot of places in my old neighborhood because the pace of development around there is just off the charts. But yeah, man, this was like an old-fashioned little dive bar. We went back there on our way back through D.C. when after the James Madison game, they had a little nightclub, it sounded like, going on downstairs. But the upstairs, just the wooden floors and the decorations on the walls, it was sweet. It's an old building there, right next to the Metro tracks, right? Literally across the Metro tracks from my childhood home. So an old building, I don't know what it used to be. I guess they said it used to be a hotel there, which makes sense if it was right by the tracks. But just a sweet vibe all around.
Absolutely. And then the other place that was unforgettable was, tell me again, Benny J's what? Bone beef and bird?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're driving from Houston to Huntsville, that's about 60 miles, takes about an hour. The first thing you see is the most obscenely large white statue of Sam Houston, who, by the way, we learned all about Sam Houston, and definitely some a crazy and famous and infamous life that he lived. He was the general of the Republic of Texas Army, won some battles in the Texas-Mexican War, and then he was the president of the state of the Republic of Texas, the first and third president of the Republic of Texas, then also went on to become the governor of the state of Texas when it became a state in the United States. But then he was also the governor of Tennessee in his life. I have never heard of that ever, a guy being a governor of two different states. I didn't even know that was possible. That would be like if Brian Schweitzer just became the governor of California someday. It's just totally, I never even realized that was a thing. But then we were, debating, okay, we're in the South, we're in Texas. Do we want Mexican or barbecue? So we said barbecue because that's more rare, more hard to find up in this neck of the woods. And so Andrew's looking for places, and he says, I got a barbecue place. Looks good, okay. And we pull up, and it's basically like in a driveway. It looks like we're going to somebody's house.
Yeah, this was a completely residential neighborhood. We pulled up, and it was like I was the guy navigating. I was the guy who found this place. We're in this residential neighborhood. It doesn't look like there's anything around. I was like, man, it can't be here. These directions cannot be right.
And Blake, who's our resident comedian, and he is so anaconda it hurts. He is like from a different moment in time, and he just loves his hometown. But he's sitting there saying, well, boys, we're either going to have the best meal of our lives or this is going to be the last day of our lives because we might get killed in here. It's like this rundown, downtrodden shack, but you could smell it from about 3 blocks away, so you knew it was going to be pretty good. And then we walk in there and we say, hey, what should we get? And the guy said, you should just order the plate with everything. So get the 4-meat plate and all of it. And the best part about this, and this is one of the most fascinating parts about traveling as somebody that grew up in Montana, I don't ever remember going anywhere ever in my life as a kid all the way through my mid-20s where you'd go somewhere outside of Montana, it was always more expensive. Now, Montana's become this destination place, particularly the college towns of Missoula and Bozeman, where everything is so expensive that it was actually like way cheaper in a lot of the places we were at. But we each got, me, you, and Blake all got 4 meat plates with 2 sides and some drinks and some bread and all this stuff. So much food I couldn't even eat it, even though we hadn't eaten in about 24 hours and I was starving. Grand total, $39. Unbelievable. It would have been, I'm used to paying $100 when you go out to eat with 3 people this day and age here, but it ended up being a great choice, and it was a funny atmosphere. We ended up talking to these 2 guys that were from there that were talking to some about the game, and that was probably the other great part about the trip is that we made friends basically every place we went, even though we didn't have a lot of time to hang out and chill. So the spirit of communication with our neighbors, even if they're from thousands of miles away, it remains alive. But that was a good choice, man. That was a fun stop that we had at Benny J's Bone Beef and Bird.
There you go.
Hey,
got it.
I finally got it. Gotta love it. It's Nuanez now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. More from our trip and the games that we saw and the future for some of the teams that we saw in second hour. But hour number 1 in the books. Before we take you out at hour number 1, though, speaking of, I know I just made you hungry with our barbecue talk. How about some sandwiches? We got $25 to Taglieri Delicatessen. Give us a call right now. Caller number 406-888-1029. That's 406-888-1029. You want to experience the best deli in Missoula, the best sandwiches in the state of Montana? That's not even according to me. That's according to People Magazine and the Food Network. Call us right now. We got a $25 gift card to Taglieri Delicatessen. 888-1029. Caller number 4. You could be the winner of Taglieri Tuesday here on Nuanez Now. Sam Herder, Hero Sports. Breaking down all things FCS playoffs. Keep it right here, ESPN Radio.
It's Customer Appreciation Days at Bob Ward's this Tuesday, December 14th and Wednesday, December 15th. Bob Ward's wants to say thank you for making us a part of your holiday gift giving. Get a $20 bonus coupon for every $100 you spend. Spend $200 and get a $40 coupon. Spend $300 and get $60 in coupons. You get the idea. This Tuesday and Wednesday, it's our Customer Appreciation Days only at Bob Ward's Sports and Outdoors, a Montana holiday shopping tradition.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
For 4 years running, Coulter Nuanez and the team at ESPN Missoula have captured the E.B. Craney Award for Radio Sports Coverage of the Year. Each Wednesday on Nuanez Now, the featured long-form interview of the week takes center stage. Tune in to Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula or SWX Montana Television to hear the Montana Radio Sportscaster of the Year conduct an in-depth interview with prominent sports figures from around Montana. The ESPN Roundtable during the 5 o'clock hour each Wednesday on Nuanez Now is proudly presented by Paradise Falls.
Where can you find first-hand football analysis from a man who's shared locker rooms with NFL Hall of Famers? How about every Monday on Nuanez Now? Former Montana quarterback Marty Mornhinweg has spent over 2 decades as a coach in the NFL, competing with and against some of the greatest players the game has ever seen. Now Coach Marty shares his wisdom and stories with you on the Monday Afternoon Quarterback, every week in the second hour of Monday's Nuanez Now, 5 p.m. only on ESPN 102.9 Missoula. Brought to you by Alpine Touch and Brett's RV and Marine.
I'll give you a little story. We're out in pregame, right before a preseason game. And of course, we have a bunch of rookies playing in their first preseason game. And in many cases, this is what these young men live for, is to play in an NFL game. And they're getting to do it. And Jerry Rice ran by a group of young rookie receivers and said, no reason to be scared. You're all prepared. Turn it loose. And you could see their faces. They just went, I got you. Let's rock and roll. That's what Jerry Rice does for a team.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
The semifinals of the FCS playoffs are coming to Montana for the first time in more than a decade. Hello, I am Coulter Nuanez. Saturday night in Huntsville, Texas, the Montana State Bobcats pulled off an upset for the ages, toppling top-ranked, top-seeded, and undefeated Sam Houston in resounding fashion. MSU freshman quarterback Tommy Millott caught a touchdown, threw a touchdown, and rushed for 2 more scores as Montana State surged to a 28-0 lead early in the second quarter on the way to a 42-19 victory. The win helps Montana State sew up a bid in the semifinals of the playoffs for the second year in a row. It also means that MSU will host South Dakota State in the first semifinal playoff game at Bobcat Stadium since 1984. The state of Montana has not seen a Final Four game since Montana defeated App State in overtime in 2009 to advance to the title game. MSU's victory marked the first road FCS playoff win in program history. It also marked the first time Sam Houston has ever lost a home game in the postseason and snapped a 22-game winning streak for the Bearcats dating back to their undefeated spring season that saw Sam win their first national title. And finally, Friday in Harrisonburg, Virginia, the Montana Grizzlies ran into a buzzsaw. James Madison scored on a pair of big plays in the first half while knocking out Grizz quarterback Cam Humphrey before cruising to a 28-6 victory over UM. Montana's season ends with a 10-3 record. This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Selway Armory.
On a gathering storm comes a tall, handsome man in a dusty black coat with a red right hand. Wrap you in his arms, tell you that you've been a good boy.
Little Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. They're so sweet. If you don't know about that band, you should go watch them live. They are unique to say the least. But I remember when this song first came out on the Scream soundtrack. What a moment in time that was. Scream. What a funny movie. Scary and funny all at the same time. So 90s, though. It's Nuanez now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. I'm Colter Nuanez. Coming to you from the Northwest Motorsport Studio. Find amazing winter savings at Northwest Motorsport. You can visit nwmsrocks.com for the largest selection of lifted trucks, diesel trucks, and off-road capable SUVs. Take back control of the road with a new rig from Northwest Motorsport. Missed anything in the first hour of the show? Montana State head football coach Brent Vigen joined us right off the top. Great interview with Coach Vigen. He's got his team in the FCS semifinals for the second year in a row. MSU hosts South Dakota State Saturday, high noon, Bozeman, Montana. Got word out of Montana State that Bobcat Stadium already sold out, so pretty impressive. Fans are excited about it. First semifinal game in the state of Montana, period, since 2009, and the first semifinal game in Bozeman since 1984. Unbelievable. We also talked a little bit about National Signing Day, particularly the in-state guys, the Montana guys, expected tomorrow to sign with both the Grizz and the Bobcats. And we also told you some stories about our cross-country journey, some of the best establishments we were able to hit up, some of the best people we were able to meet. You can find everything from today's first hour on the Nuanez Now podcast, which, by the way, keep downloading, keep rating, reviewing, subscribing. We have just put the podcast all the way to the moon so far this fall and into the winter, and we need to keep it rolling. We love all the engagements, all the people that are downloading, all the people that are making time for us in their lives. So really appreciate it. But also thanks to our great sponsors, Sportsbet Montana, Blackfoot Communications, and the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel for proudly presenting the Nuanez Now podcast. Go down to the Rankish Brothers RV phone line. Welcome in. Great friend of this show and a guy that's doing an amazing job covering FCS football at the national level. He's Sam Herder, Senior FCS Analyst for Hero Sports. Sam, what's up, my man? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. It's semifinal time, and so certainly an exciting time in the FCS world, and I appreciate you having me on to talk about it.
No, of course, man. I always love having you on. I actually got a distinct pleasure of sitting next to Sam at the rivalry game in Missoula a couple weeks ago. But first of all, we got to start there, man. Watching you work, I even asked you. I said, do you ever feel like your brain's going to explode? Because this guy's got every window you ever seen on his computer open. He's tracking every game that's going on. I don't know how you could possibly even pay attention to the game that you're actually at when you have all this other stuff. But you're just amazing to be able to cover football from coast to coast like you do. But you do a hell of a job, man. But just take us through it. I mean, how did you learn how to have that many different pieces of information being absorbed into your mind?
Well, I appreciate those kind words. But, yeah, it is it's really tough to do, obviously, every week trying to pay attention to everything that's going on, especially that last weekend of the regular season where, every result, it is nice because, maybe 20, 30 games have no impact at all on the playoff picture, but there were several games that impacted the playoff picture. So we was trying to pay attention to all that and look at the results and explain on Twitter how those results impacted the playoff picture. And that's fun to do. But the tough thing is when you're in a press box, like sometimes you're on your computer, you're staring at your computer for 5 minutes, all of a sudden you look up and you're like, oh crap, I just missed the last 7 plays. What's going on? And so that's kind of the unfortunate part of kind of trying to work that much in the press box, but certainly, enjoyed my time in Missoula, tried to soak in that environment and that atmosphere as much as I could.
Well, Hero Sports released the All-American list today, so let's start there. A whole bunch of guys from the Montana schools landed on these, and a total of 40 players from the Big Sky overall. But first of all, what's your process in determining these teams? Because obviously there's a couple leagues in the country right now with very prestigious reputations, including the Big Sky. So it seems like a lot of times these lists are weighted towards those leagues, and justifiably so. I absolutely agree with that. What's your process in just determining these All-American squads?
Yeah, it's a very long process. I always forget to, time, myself as far as, how many hours I put in, but it's probably a week's worth just of building out the database, of putting every single all-conference player into a big database, which is probably 1,200 players full, just to make sure, every single guy that got conference honors is at least getting consideration. Then from there, you're kind of just sorting out, obviously I don't stare just at the box score and stats. I think that's evident in these All-American teams where, guy A has way more receiving yards than guy B, but maybe guy B played tougher competition, or I think is more skilled, and guy B will be the All-American. But obviously production, is a big deal. No matter what league you're in, what conference you're in, if you have 20.5 tackles for loss, you're probably going to be a dude. So obviously look at some numbers. I watch a lot of FCS games, and I'm not going to pretend to be a scout or a hardcore X's and O's guys, but you can kind of tell watching these guys, the talent level they have. Year by year consistency, is big. If you're a 3-time first-team All-Conference offensive lineman, that'll go a long way. I look at pro prospects as well. If NFL draft scouts really like you, that'll go a long ways as well. And then strength of schedule too. Who you're playing. If you're putting up big numbers against better competition, that's certainly an area to look at as well. So yeah, it takes a long time to put it all together, and there's usually about 25 worthy guys that can only fit into 15 spots, and so it's tough to really narrow down those final few guys.
Well, the first-team All-American list included Daniel Hardy, a defensive end from Montana State, as well as Troy Anderson, Bobcat captain and the Big Sky Conference Defensive Player of the Year, as well as Montana's Patrick O'Connell, who, like Anderson, is a finalist for the Buck Buchanan Award, as well as Justin Ford from Montana, cornerback, who finished 4th in the Buck Buchanan Award voting. And then now, as of yesterday, former Grizz punter Brian Buschini, who's on his move. He's on the way. He's on the move to Nebraska after declaring his transfer a couple days ago and announcing his commitment to the Cornhuskers today. But let's just talk about the Buschini aside. Let's talk about those other guys. First of all, from the Bobcat perspective, not only, Troy Anderson, I think everybody expected if he stayed healthy, he'd be on this first-team All-League list or first-team All-American list. And he's such a unbelievable, transcendent talent. But from a guy that's covered Daniel Hardy since he first broke in at Montana State and kind of knows his backstory, a kid that lost his father when he was in high school and sort of gravitated towards football late, but found the communal and brotherhood elements of the game so fulfilling and healing to him. To see him come from what he was, a completely unpolished, raw-boned, skinny kid from Portland who'd only played football for a couple years, to turn into one of the biggest menaces coming off the edge. What an unbelievable story. And so for as much as people maybe expected Troy Anderson to be on this list, Daniel Hardy came out of nowhere, but I think that's one of the great stories among your first-team All-Americans.
Yeah, he's fun to watch, too. Just one of those guys that, always seems, even if it's not a tackle for a loss or even a quarterback hurry or a quarterback sack, it seems like he's always, in the backfield or throwing, the offense off of the rhythm at least a little bit every single play. It's interesting, too, because I think it was the 2020 fall season that never happened. We still did a preseason All-American team back in June of that 2020 summer, just because you never knew if the season was going to happen or not. But I believe that year, Amandre Williams was a preseason All-American for us, coming off a really good 2019 season. And Amandre still had a really good season as well. That kind of Daniel Hardy is kind of taken over that scary edge rusher for the Bobcats, and so you put those two on the same line with a guy like Chase Benson, who's on our third team. Just a really good defensive front there for the Bobcats.
Sam Herder joining us, senior analyst for FCS football for Hero Sports. And I also think that, Sam, Montana State had two of the best defenses in the entire country this year, and that's also reflected in these lists. But you think about Patrick O'Connell, Troy Anderson, and Justin Ford are 3 of the 4 top vote getters for the Buck Buchanan Award. So break it down for us. I don't know if you want to reveal how you voted or not on the air, but what do you think of just the prestige of the defensive players that played for the 2 Montana schools this year, and just the fact that those 4 guys, all of them first-team All-Americans for Hero Sports?
Yeah, it definitely says a lot about the talent level at those 2 schools. Looking at my, I just pulled it up now, my Buck Buchanan Award in ballot, and voters are asked to vote for their top 5. I put Troy Anderson number 1 on my ballot, and then Patrick O'Connell I have number 3 on my ballot, and those are the only 2. I can't remember. Justin Ford was obviously considered on my end, but he ended up not being in my top 5, and so that's how I went with those 2 Montana players. But yeah, Montana, it seems like every single year they kind of have that dude at the linebacker position. Coming into this year, that dude was Jace Lewis, who had a phenomenal year. He was a third-team All-American for us. But Patrick O'Connell kind of took over as that dude for the Montana defense and was kind of the stalwart there. And then obviously Troy Anderson. I don't even know how to describe him in a way that hasn't been described before. Just a big guy, freak of an athlete. Watching him in person, I got to see him in person offensively a few years ago, but seeing him on defense and how he just closes the gap so quickly or closes off running lanes where it seems like the running back has an edge. It seems like he has a bit of a corner off tackle, and it looks like it's going to be an 8-yard gain, and all of a sudden, whoa, that only went for 2 yards because Anderson just came out of nowhere and got that tackle. And so, both of those guys are fun to watch, and both of those defenses in the Montana State really fun to watch.
Other Montana school players that received All-American honors from Hero Sports included Isaiah Afonso and Lewis Kidd from Montana State, landed on the second-team list. Afonso, running back, Kidd, an offensive lineman. Matt O'Donohue, the long snapper for the Grizzlies, as well as outstanding kick returner Malik Flowers for Montana, also a second-team selections. You mentioned it. Chase Benson from MSU lands on the third-team defense, as does Montana linebacker Jace Lewis and Montana defensive back Robbie Hauk and Kevin Macias, Money Macias. 18 straight field goals during his senior year for Montana. He lands on the third team. And then also a couple guys that land on the sophomore and freshman lists. Alex Governor from Montana, interior defensive lineman, a sophomore All-American. And then, of course, Brian Buscini as a first-team All-American. He's also on the freshman list for the Grizzlies, as is Cole Grossman, a tight end for Montana. Sam Herder joining us here on Nuanez Now. Let's talk a little bit about the results from over the weekend, Sam. First, let's talk about the game on Friday night. Montana went to James Madison, and they got their clock clean. They gave up more big plays in that game than they have pretty much all year, and then they also lost their starting quarterback and their starting receiver in the span of about 5 minutes. Very deflating, robbed the Grizz of a lot of their confidence. But all that said, James Madison is one of the better FCS teams I've seen in a minute. They are very talented. They have a lot of really good players. Cole Johnson, the quarterback, is very impressive. I think he will at least get a shot at the next level. I thought their receivers were FBS all day long. They had a couple guys defensively that are absolutely going to fit into the FBS right away as well. So just your takeaways from Montana's loss at JMU on Friday night.
Yeah, you described it as how I was thinking it. Just the talent difference between these two teams was pretty apparent. JMU, they look like an FBS team. Obviously, they're moving to the FBS after the season, but they look like an FBS team, just with their size and their length, how some of their guys are built, the speed they have, just with some of the receivers, how they pulled away from Montana's DBs. And so I think, results like this, obviously you never want to lose in the playoffs, but every team but one is going to lose in the playoffs. But when you lose this way, I think you can certainly take benefits from it if you're Montana looking at, okay, this is where we need to get to on the offensive and defensive lines, or, maybe this is the type of skilled kid, we need, maybe just get a little bit better athletes, and turn them into a really good receiver or running back or what have you at the skill position. And so, I think the talent differential was pretty apparent in this one. Even with Humphrey and Sammy Akem going down, I don't think that changed the result. It certainly, had those guys been healthy, it would have been a closer game. But I still think JMU would have won that game, even if those guys stayed healthy. But still, obviously, losing two seniors early in the game, that's going to, kind of have an emotional effect on the players as well.
Well, also, a couple of guys that were out that maybe got glossed over, guys that maybe aren't necessarily those headliner-type guys, but certainly veteran players. Joe Babros, former NC State transfer, is a defensive end for the Grizzlies, a senior, as well as Omar Hicks-Anu, who was a great player at cornerback for the Grizz this year, former Oregon State transfer. Neither of those guys played either. So the Grizz, certainly a part of the story from this season was the attrition. It's hard to deny, but also injuries are a part of football for everybody. And so there's a lot of luck goes into having success. But Montana, quarterfinals for the second year in a row, 10 wins for the second year in a row. I know people are a little bit disappointed around these parts because the Grizz do have so much apparent talent. It was a ferocious defense, a throwback defense, one of the better defenses I've seen at Montana, period, and the best defense they've had for a decade plus at least. Bobby Hauk touted it as the best defense he's had at Montana, which is nothing to sneeze at when you're talking about Coach Hauk and the experience he has, but also the fact that he doesn't really fall prone to hyperbole in those situations. But a simple yet complicated question for you, Sam. Did the Grizz take another step this season compared to where they were at in 2019?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think they're getting there as far as being a legit title contender. Just not there quite yet, which we already discussed, kind of the talent differential there. But I think they keep on making big steps to being in that national title picture. 2019 was a really big step. This year, I know they still made it to the same round as 2019, but I still thought this team kind of resembled more of a national title team than maybe some past teams at Montana. And I think too, I wasn't covering the FCS in the 2000s, so I'm not going to pretend I was watching the Montana Grizz in the 2000s. But just the little bit I know about those teams when they were dominating the Big Skies, they just kind of had an attitude about them, a swagger about them, and it seemed like this Montana team was as close to being that, as the Grizz have been for quite some time, where just the defense is just ferocious and in your face, and you can tell, the players, the coaches, they have a confidence about them in a good way. And so it seems like, again, I don't know a lot about the 2000s Montana, but it seems like that culture and kind of that attitude and swagger is coming back to the program from my perspective.
Sam Herder, Hero Sports, here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. Maybe you're watching in live on SWX Montana television around the great state of Montana. Saturday night, Sam, Huntsville, Texas, Montana State destroys Sam Houston. They snap a long winning streak by the Bearcats, the defending spring national champions, a team that had never lost a home game in the FCS playoffs until Saturday. When Montana State goes up 28-0 in the first 17 minutes of the game, Tommy Malott caught a touchdown, threw a touchdown, and rushed for two more in a little bit more than a quarter of action. And all of a sudden, MSU's up 28-0, and they cruise to a 42-19 victory over the top-ranked Bearcats. The people that seemed the least surprised by this result was Montana State. I think that's a true credit to the coaching staff and the players. I think it took a tremendous amount of courage to pull the trigger and bench a guy who had started 11 games and Matt McKay at quarterback, and then McKay leaves, which caused a lot of external drama, but it was hardly any internal drama. It seems like everybody on the Montana State roster fully believes in Tommy Malott and his abilities. But were you surprised by the end result in Huntsville on Saturday night?
I was definitely surprised by the margin of victory. Not necessarily surprised that Montana State won the game, although I did pick Sam Houston to win this game, so got that one wrong. And I mostly thought that Montana State would have a hard time being able to run the ball against a pretty good Sam Houston defensive line, which the Bearcats were pretty good up the middle, I thought, but Montana State had a really good game plan going into that game where they really attacked the edges, running the ball, getting off tackle, and also they saw something in the Sam Houston corners. Although Zion McCollum, I know a lot of NFL draft scouts like him and his skill level, but Montana State obviously saw something where they thought their receivers could win 50-50 fade routes against Sam Houston's corners. And so I thought Montana State had a really good game plan going into it. Offensively, then defensively, I don't even know necessarily if Montana State out-schemed Sam Houston defensively. I just think they just overwhelmed them, with the defensive line, even with some key guys out of that game. Montana State just, physically overwhelmed Sam Houston, was all over them, got after Eric Schmitz, hit him hard several times. Ramon Jefferson, I know he didn't look like it, but the Sam Houston running back, he's one of the better running backs in the FCS. And, he didn't get going. Sam Houston's offensive line didn't get a push. And so just a really great defensive effort from Montana State there to hold a really good offense to basically, there's a couple drives there where Sam Houston got success, but for about 75% of that game, Sam Houston just didn't get anything going.
And now, this week, we're down to 4. So let's start with Friday night's game between the two programs over the last 10 years at the FCS level. James Madison hits the road to Fargo to take on North Dakota State, and we've seen this matchup over and over and over again this time of year. But this is going to be a fun one because the last one, NDSU gunning for their 9th title in the last 10 years in the fall, as well as James Madison playing their last run in the FCS playoffs before they make the move up to the FBS. So what's your take on Friday night's game in Fargo?
Yeah, I mean it's going to be an electric environment. The storylines on the field are really fun. The storylines off the field are really fun as well. With JMU, who's kind of been the top contender to NDSU lately. The Dukes are leaving for the FBS. You know, a subdivision that I'm sure if NDSU had a magic wand, they would get a football-only invite to the Mountain West Conference 3-4 years ago. And so NDSU is kind of that program and a fan base that is kind of, some of it is wanting to go to that FBS level, as long as that move makes sense. You know, and the more top teams that leave the FCS, the more the cupboard, I guess, kind of gets bare as far as national title contenders, where it looks like it's going to be NDSU, South Dakota State, and then the Montana schools, you know, battling out every year for the national title. Then maybe another team coming in every other year or so to push those teams in the upper Midwest. And so that's really an interesting dynamic. And then on the field, just two really good teams, physical teams. It's going to be a stalemate, I think. But JMU kind of brings in a different type of offense, you know, with a really strong passing attack. And, you know, if you're going to beat NDSU, you know, it's going to be hard to do it by pounding the rock and running the ball, you know, 40, 45 times a game. And so that bodes well for JMU, who likes to throw the ball 30 to 35, 40 times a game with this new look offense to JMU.
Sam Herder, Hero Sports, joining us here on Nuanez Now. Last thing for you then, Sam. First Final Four playoff game. First FCS semifinal in Bozeman in 37 years. And crazy to think this was the first FCS semifinal game of any sort in the state of Montana since 2009. I've been doing this for 15 years, and I have not covered a home semifinal game since I left Montana to move back to Montana. It's been a full decade plus. Unbelievable. But a big moment for Montana State's program, but also a big moment for South Dakota State because they have continued to build. They're absolutely one of the 4 or 5 best programs in the United States. They just happen to be in the same conference and rivals with North Dakota State, so they can't get over the top even in their own league, even though they're the only team that ever seems to beat NDSU during the regular season. They did that again this year, but it's going to be a fascinating deal because I think that South Dakota State, they stubbed their toe a couple times during the regular season, including losing on a Hail Mary to South Dakota, and that made it so that they were unseeded. But this is definitely one of the best teams in the country. They played for the national championship in the spring, so this is a tough draw for Montana State, but they got the game at home, and the Bobcats right now, they're playing with house money, man, so I think anything goes. To me, this seems like a coin flip, but what do you think of this matchup in Bozeman on Saturday?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it can go either way, but I do think if South Dakota State is at their best, they probably are the best team in the FCS, in my opinion, just with the defense they bring to the table, a really balanced offense. I like their passing attack, even though I think their passing attack is a bit underrated just because they don't need to utilize it a whole lot. With a really strong offensive line, two-headed monster in Pierre Strong Jr. and Isaiah Davis, although we'll see if Strong is able to play. It sounds like he's in a concussion protocol, but he is one of the most dynamic players in the FCS. And right now a projected 4th-round draft pick in 2022, which you rarely see FCS running backs even being projected as draft picks at all, let alone being in the 4th round. So he's a big deal if he can play or not. But even, I mean, obviously it's going to be hard to establish that run against a really good Montana State defense. But even if they can't, I really like Chris Oladokun, the quarterback. The Yankee twins are 2 solid wide receivers. And then Tucker Kraft, I think, is one of the top, if not the best tight ends in the FCS. And so South Dakota State is all around a really strong team. At the same time, they're going up against a Montana State team that, you know, kind of just has that it factor to them right now. They're going to have a great home crowd environment. And so that's going to be a tough place to go for South Dakota State to go and get a win. And Montana State is, you know, like I said, it seems like they kind of have that it factor right now. And you said they're playing with house money. You know, if they lose, no one's going to really think much if they do lose. But if they do win, you know, this tremendous story for the Bobcats just continues to get written in Frisco, Texas.
He's Sam Herder. You can find all his great work at Hero Sports. Sam, love having you throughout the season. Maybe we'll catch up one more time before the end of the year. But in the meantime, happy holidays. Have yourself an outstanding weekend. And thanks so much for joining us here on Nuanez Now.
All right, you too. Thank you so much for having me on.
Love talking football with that guy. He works his butt off, man. FCS fans are lucky to have him. I know he gets all sorts of grief on Twitter. Some of you fans are pretty crazy with all of your emotional rants, but lucky to have Sam Herder, a guy that can put it in perspective for you on a national level. At the FCS level, he's the best in the business, and we love having him be a part of what we do here at ESPN Radio. James Madison moving up. Sam Houston moving up. Why? What are the details behind it? I got all sorts of texts from all sorts of you fine people out there that are listening, asking me. So, give a little financial breakdown, a little dynamic of what it actually means to move the FCS, or from the FCS to the FBS, and is it a good idea for JMU and Sam Houston? Keep it right here. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires, introducing the new Backcountry AT2 for a quieter ride with improved performance in wet conditions. Because when it comes to keeping your family safe on the road this winter, the right tires help you feel prepared for anything.
Mom? Mom? Hey, Mom.
Well, almost anything. Plus, save up to $130 when you buy Quatrack tires with financing. Les Schwab Tires. Limited time offer. Terms and conditions apply. See leschwab.com/sale for details.
Paul Ryan is a name that's been synonymous with law around the Garden City for decades. And Paul is excited to announce the expansion of his firm to Ryan, Holloway, and Miller. Paul Ryan, Nate Holloway, and Angie Miller have a fierce love for their community, and they want to help you with any of your legal needs. From auto accidents to medical malpractice to wrongful death or any criminal defense, Ryan, Holloway, and Miller should be your first call. When it comes to personal injury or criminal defense, call Ryan, Holloway, and Miller today. Ryan, Holloway, and Miller, your Montana attorneys.
Okay, ladies, listen up. He's inundated with holiday boxers and ties. And we all know how this year's hot new gadget will be collecting dust by spring. You ready to give a gift that makes an impression? Check out RPL's Fine Jewelry. Stunning Rolex timepieces, rings fit for a king, custom necklaces that scream, I'm a much-loved man. Whoever decided jewelry was just for the ladies anyway, RPL's is your go-to for authentic Christmas joy. Stop by and visit their professional staff for some help making this year a memorable one. RPL's 228 North Higgins, downtown Missoula.
Open your new Stockman Bank account anytime, anywhere with online account opening. Now, you can open an account in minutes on your laptop, tablet, or mobile phone. It's convenient, simple, and secure. Open your new account today at stockmanbank.com. Then, add our online and mobile banking services so you can manage your money when, where, and how you want. Stockman Bank, Montana's brand of banking. Member FDIC.
Like most Montanans, we love a good steak. And because we're the Montana Club, we take the steaks we serve very seriously. We're confident to say that our custom grilled steaks are as good a steak as you're going to get. Now we're proud to add regularly sourced, naturally raised Castle Rock bison ribeye to our selection. And remember, the Montana Club steak entrees include the sides. Come into the Montana Club today for an unrivaled steak experience. The Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
It's easier than ever to enjoy Florence Coffee's limited time holiday blend coffee beans because now you can order on our online store. You'll find coffee beans, Floco merch, and e-cards all at your fingertips. Or drive up to any kiosk for a holiday gift card special. It's pretty easy to finish off your Christmas list at Florence Coffee. And make sure to check out our online store at FlorenceCoffeeCo.com.
Florence Coffee Company.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
The semifinals of the FCS playoffs are coming to Montana for the first time in more than a decade. Hello, I am Colter Nuanez. Saturday night in Huntsville, Texas, the Montana State Bobcats pulled off an upset for the ages, toppling top-ranked, top-seeded, and undefeated Sam Houston in resounding fashion. MSU freshman quarterback Tommy Mellott caught a touchdown, threw a touchdown, and rushed for two more scores as Montana State surged to a 28-0 lead early in the second quarter on the way to a 42-19 victory. The win helps Montana State sew up a bid in the semifinals of the playoffs for the second year in a row. It also means that MSU will host South Dakota State in the first semifinal playoff game at Bobcat Stadium since 1984. The state of Montana has not seen a Final Four game since Montana defeated App State in overtime in 2009 to advance to the title game. MSU's victory marked the first road FCS playoff win in program history. It also marked the first time Sam Houston has ever lost a home game in the postseason and snapped a 22-game winning streak for the Bearcats dating back to their undefeated spring season that saw Sam win their first national title. And finally, Friday in Harrisonburg, Virginia, the Montana Grizzlies ran into a buzzsaw. James Madison scored on a pair of big plays in the first half while knocking out Grizz quarterback Cam Humphrey before cruising to a 28-6 victory over UM. Montana's season ends with a 10-3 record. This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Selway Armory.
Be just fine. I just wanted to play. I just wanted to play. But Texas, green eyes, crying goodbye. Was a long drive, a heartache. I'm still trying to get through. Texas was you.
One of my favorite songwriters, Jason Aldean. Man, I hope he comes back to Montana. Saw him in Bozeman once upon a time. It was awesome. Nuanez now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television, sharing some of my music from my Spotify rap for the year. Hope you're having an outstanding Tuesday and an outstanding week so far. This is the last week of 2021 for Nuanez now. We'll be back at it full force in the new year. A couple pieces of news breaking from during this show. Steph Curry just hit a three-pointer to become the NBA's all-time leader in three-point shots made. Only a matter of time for the greatest shooter in basketball history, but he breaks Ray Allen's record tonight. And I don't actually even know how we reach this point in society or as sports fans where there could be any hate for a guy like Steph Curry. I can't believe that people try to hate on him. He plays the game with so much joy. I mean, you might be annoyed because he chews on his mouthpiece or something, but it's like, get over it, man. The guy is so fun, and he's so fun to watch, and he does it right. He contributes to his community. He just seems like he's got it all ironed out, and so awesome for him. Also, on a local note, Brooke Stainer, a phenomenally talented young lady from Missoula Sentinel, who joined us on this show a couple times last spring. One of the great track athletes in the state of Montana. She just gave her commitment to the University of Montana. I say that with surprise in my voice only because Brooke Stainer is lights out. I mean, she won 5 different events at the Class AA state track meet as a junior last year for Missoula Sentinel. And so awesome for her to be staying home. But she had offers from Washington, Washington State, Clemson, Oregon State. She'll be a heptathlete here at Montana. And this is actually pretty cool. I talk about this on the show a lot, and if you've been paying attention, it's worth noting. But Lindsey Hall is one of the great track athletes to come out of the state of Montana. Missoula Big Sky alum who had a phenomenal career with the Grizz. She was a multiple-time All-American in the multi-events, both indoor and outdoor. And she's back at her alma mater, coaching the multi-athletes at Montana. And Brooke Stainer told Sean Rainey of SWX Montana Television, he's the one reporting this news, that staying home and competing for Lindsey Hall, with Lindsey Hall was definitely one of the big draws. So Montana has had some of the great multi-athletes in the history of the Big Sky Conference, national level multi-athletes, particularly Lindsey Hall and Erica McLeod. And great draw or great get, I should say, for Montana track and field. Brooke Stainer, one of the best in the state in quite some time. Staying home, at least for now. Still has to sign and all that stuff. But congratulations to her, and also congratulations to a good friend of this show, Missoula Sentinel track coach Craig Metler, a good friend of mine, and a guy who's had a big influence on Brooke's development as an athlete. While we were at Bridgeforth Stadium in Harrisonburg, Virginia, covering Montana at James Madison, and then while we were at Elliott T. Bauer Stadium in Huntsville, Texas, covering Sam Houston against Montana State, I got all sorts of texts with people from the Treasure State asking me about the attendance, what it looked like on TV, basically saying, man, we draw so well in Montana at both Washington Grizzly Stadium and Bobcat Stadium. These stadiums don't look like they draw nearly as well. How are these teams moving up to the FBS? So I wanted to explain a little of the logistics of this, because moving up to the FBS, it takes a lot of things. And there's also a lot of reasons why you would do it. To go from the Colonial Athletic Association into a league like the Sun Belt for James Madison, the main motivations are elevated level of competition in a conference that's similarly a good fit regionally, but also there's a huge money draw. So the way that most Division I programs make money, or generate revenue, I should say, is threefold. Especially at the Power 5 level, the number one moneymaker is television rights. The Power 5 conferences, the SEC network, the Big Ten network, the Pac-12 network, they're paying anywhere between $25 and $50 million per school as part of the revenue sharing for those big television networks that the leagues operate. They also can make money on student athletic fees. And schools like Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State, Alabama, they have such huge student populations that a couple $1,000s in your student athletic fees generates millions and millions of dollars. Then you generate revenue off ticket sales. Even though Ohio State, Alabama, Michigan, they play in front of venues that have upwards of 75 to 100,000 people in them, they make a lot of money at the gate, as they say in the business. But it doesn't compare to the TV money, and at the very most, it's probably comparable to the student athletic fees. So most, especially in the Power 5, but a lot of places, your revenue stream is not primarily from ticket sales. That is, I'm not going to say unique, but very rare. And Montana State, they have been like that forever. Both of the Montana schools, they get subsidized at a much less of a level than most of their Big Sky Conference contemporaries. Like, for example, schools like UC Davis, Eastern Washington, those schools are getting 75% of their athletic department budget subsidized, either from the state or the university or student athletic fees. They're hardly making money or generating revenue based on ticket sales. So when you're looking at the stadium in Huntsville, Texas, and there's 7,500 people there, and 1,500 of them are Bobcat fans, and you're sitting there thinking, why is this school moving up? Well, they fit the capacity requirement in terms of how big the stadium is, but more than anything, they're doing it in the pursuit of trying to attract more students, but also just they can boost their revenue in different ways that have nothing to do with the amount of tickets that you sell. The sad truth is that, first of all, the model in which the Montana schools operate under is the most challenging model you can operate under as a Division I program. Also, though, there's certainly outliers, but almost across the board, from a pure revenue generation standpoint for your football program, it is more lucrative and more financially feasible to move up to the FBS and play in a non-Power 5 league, a league that people in the Big Sky might scoff at, like the Sun Belt, and you're still going to make more money by going completely defeated, never winning a game, and playing in front of half-full stadiums than you will at the FCS level for a variety of different reasons, but namely twofold: money games and television rights. James Madison will move up to the Sun Belt. They will then be a more alluring and a more enticing opponent in the non-conference for schools like Virginia Tech, Virginia, Maryland, schools in that area. When you're in the FBS, you're getting paid twice, if not more, of the buyout. So, for example, Montana got paid $675,000, to go to the University of Washington this last year. When Idaho played Penn State that a couple years back, they had just moved down to the Big Sky, but that contract was signed as an FBS opponent for the Nittany Lions. Idaho got paid $2 million for that game. You get paid way more in the money games if you're a low-level FBS than you ever will if you're an FCS, even if you are an incredibly high-level FCS. North Dakota State has never made $1 million for a money game. Most money games against Power Fives for a group of 5 teams are $1 million, if not more, and sometimes upwards of $2.5 million. So you're getting significant revenue just from money games. You also have an opportunity to get significant revenue from TV. And, I used to make fun of Ryan Tutel, my old radio partner here, about his obsession with Tuesday night Maction. He used to always be watching Tuesday night Maction. The MAC is sort of a non-relevant league at the FBS level. It's a place where a lot of coaches have sort of tried to revive their careers. It is fine football, but they play those games on ESPN. That's money. That's revenue for the league. You don't get that at Montana and Montana State. The schools in Montana don't make any money on TV. Hardly nothing. And so the business model of the Montana schools is a tough one. It's a true testament to all of you listening to this show that it is a sustainable one because the fan bases are so great and the turnouts for football games on Saturdays are so consistently awesome. But I guess if you're saying, well, man, Montana draws way better than James Madison and Sam Houston. Well, Montana also doesn't have student athletic fees, and they also don't have any real potential for TV revenue unless they were to move up. And so it's going to be a fracturing. As Sam Herder from Hero Sports said earlier on, what will the FCS be if it's just NDSU and South Dakota State and Montana State as the perennial powers? I mean, that's good, but you need more people to have a seat at the table. And so I just wonder, because at the end of the day, if sustainability and making sure you maintain Title IX balance, if all that stuff continues to be a high priority, then money has to be a high priority as well. So how do you re-allot it? How do you match or replicate that revenue without having to make a jump? I'm not sure, and I think that there's going to be some crazy times ahead, a lot of reorganization and a lot of restructuring on the horizon for Division I football as a whole. So if you want to say why would James Madison and Sam Houston move up, the easy answers are more attractive to recruits, more opportunity for television money, and at the end of the day, as it always is, the almighty dollar. That's the reason. It's all about money. Unfortunately, but it is what it is. Nuanez now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. Give you a little tease for what's coming up tomorrow. I'll keep it right here, ESPN Radio. J&V Restaurant Supply is your home for everything kitchen. Whether you're a bear or a bobcat, an eagle or a Scotty, you can score big with J&V. Everything you need for your next tailgate or for that big family holiday party can be found in one of J&V's 3 locations in Bozeman, Billings, or Great Falls. With free delivery on all orders through the end of December, J&V is a proud sponsor of athletics across Montana and has been family-owned for more than 45 years. Get everything you need for your next event at J&V or restaurant specialist. Visit jvrestaurant.com today.
Most of you have been made aware that new car inventory is very low and that it is nearly impossible to find what you want without drastically overpaying. At Nissan and Hyundai in Missoula, we have over 40 new Nissans and 40 new Hyundais in stock, and we have the ability to special order vehicles at no extra cost to you. We have the best pre-owned inventory in town. We don't just count on auctions to buy used cars. We work very hard at buying vehicles directly from Missoula residents to ensure high quality. Nissan and Hyundai of Missoula, your car, your way.
Which would you rather be? An armchair quarterback or an on the edge of your cushy leather seat chair quarterback? Turf Club Sportsbook is now open at Northern Quest with the most modern, luxurious, and exciting sports wagering experience around. So you can bet, watch, and win like never before. Right here in the heart of the action. Turf Club Sportsbook, the ultimate game changer. Now open at Northern Quest.
Automated Living is a Missoula-based smart technology company. If you are looking for a new home theater, some quality hi-fi music on your deck or den, a screen and projector in your boardroom, one button to turn off all the lights, cameras to monitor your parking lot, or a security system to keep you and your family safe, Automated Living has a solution for you. We make our clients' lives easier and more enjoyable while giving peace of mind with streamlined control of all elements in the home or office. Contact us today for a free consultation.
Ready, set, shop. Have you looked at the calendar? It's time. Forget high-interest credit cards. Apply for a holiday loan from Farmer State Bank. Holiday loans feature low monthly payments that are easy to budget for. Upon approval, you'll have the cash you need for a holiday to remember, whether it's online or local shopping, travel, whatever. Call Farmer State Bank for details and apply today. Farmer State Bank, an equal housing lender and member FDIC.
You've been dreaming about a sandwich from Tagliari Deli all day. Why continue to torture yourself by waiting even longer? If you order online or call ahead, Tagliari Delicatessen will have the best sandwich in the Treasure State ready for you upon arrival. To place an order, visit TagliariDelicatessen.com or give Tagliari a call at 406-830-3049. Tagliari has been named Montana's best deli by the Food Network and best sandwich by People Magazine. Why wait? Order Tagliari Deli ahead of time today.
It's Nuanez now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula. Watch the show statewide on SWX Montana Television.
I bet you didn't know this song was originally by Black Sabbath. Little Metallica for you here on your Tuesday. This is The Final Word, presented by Eagle Satellite. Teachers, Eagle Satellite knows you've had a lot of challenges and changes to adapt to in the past few years. When you get home, make life easy with Dish TV. Not only that, but you'll get a free TV package with TV starting at $57.99 a month. Eagle Satellite also offers internet for $50 a month. Call Eagle Satellite, 406-728-9999. That's 728-9999 for your free installation today. What's up tomorrow? Leon Costello, Montana State Athletic Director, will join us. We'll also have Alex Eshelman swinging by and a phenomenal ESPN roundtable with Ryan Davis. He's a senior tight end for the Bobcats and one of the proud members of the Blackfeet Nation, representing his team and his people in the FCS semifinals. A great conversation with Ryan Davis. We'll see you tomorrow, 4 p.m. Nuanez now.
The holiday season is here, and you can connect to your community